Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning back in. So I wanted to speak to you guys about the importance of boundaries and why are boundaries so integral to our life and why they're so important. And the thing is, you do need emotional and physical boundaries to really protect yourself and look after yourself. And you are your number one priority in your life. And it does start with you confining and defining space in your life, and that's emotional and physical space, and maybe even spiritual space if you're a spiritual person as well. So, for example, right now we have COVID-19 measures in place around the world, and here in the United Kingdom we are practicing social distancing, and we're actually distancing for our grocery stores here, our supermarkets, and any essential shops presently. And we do have that 2-meter distancing. Some people have got gloves, some people have got masks. I know the stores are actually sanitizing our shopping carts between every single use, which I think is fantastic. And so that just shows why they've put boundaries and measures in place, and it's to protect ourselves and to protect everyone else as well. So it's really just about protection. That's what boundaries are there for. They can be physical, they can be emotional, and like I said, spiritual as well. And if you think about Tupperware, I love to cook, and I love to have leftovers the next day, and you know, Tupperware with a good seal on it is amazing Tupperware. You can store soup in that thing and turn it right upside down and nothing's gonna leak out. So your boundaries are like that rubber seal that sits in that Tupperware lid that helps adhere to the container. And it's not that your container needs to be empty in life, it's your container needs to be protected. I hope this is making sense to you guys, because that's how I can best relate boundaries, physical boundaries and parameters, and how to relate that to emotional boundaries as well. So good boundaries will definitely set you free in life. You will be a slave to others if you don't know how to say no to somebody. No is definitely a full sentence, and I actually personally used to really struggle with this. I would hate to have to say no to any family member, especially when I had some wonderful, very generous, very kind, loving family members that are always there for me. So I struggled to say no, and there were a couple of family members who expected me to overstep my boundaries, and then I had no choice but to say no. But this is something I learned within a few years of making a few mistakes by not saying no to some friends and family. And it does get easier with time. It's one of those things you just have to keep practicing it over and over again. And I have managed to remove the guilt factor for the last few years. And maybe it's an age thing, maybe it's part of growing up, I'm not too sure, but no is a full sentence, and just keep that in mind when it comes to having your boundaries nice and strong in your life and keeping them nice and solid as well. Because you can either be known as somebody who's easy to manipulate and a bit of a pushover, or you can be known as somebody who is solid with good structures in place. So you get to decide which person you are every single day, and you can always change your story as well with that. So another thing I would say about setting boundaries is knowing your standards. Get to know yourself, get to know things you will accept, get to know things you will just never accept. And this can always be something that you can improve on. Also, you need to understand that having good solid standards in your life, and maybe even raising your standards at times when you need to, that actually sets the tone of your life. And your life isn't like a permanent destination. It's actually a journey. So you will have moments where your standards are stronger, moments where you're going through some emotional struggles perhaps, and that can lower your standards, but it's up to you to be true to yourself, really get to know yourself, maybe distance yourself from people for a short while if you don't know what your standards are, or if you're trying to implement higher standards into your life as well. And high standards, or having good standards, definitely support you with decision making in your life. In fact, even low standards will help you support yourself with decision making in life. So if you have lower standards, you might find yourself gravitating towards people who will manipulate your emotions and do more taking than giving. And if you have a higher set of standards, you know to be very a little bit more built with a built-in filtration system for who comes into your life and who doesn't get to stay in your life as well. So you kind of understand what you will and won't stand for, like I had mentioned before. So definitely understand that you have to remain true to yourself and understand the difference between being someone who practices what they preach, and being somebody where their actions don't align with their words. So it's one thing to talk and say you've got high standards, and it's another thing to actually practice your own standards. For example, if you're someone you can't stand lying, then don't be somebody who lies to someone. And I've noticed this as well with parents. They're always telling their kids, tell the truth, the truth will set you free. And we know that parents always lie about silly things to children, and you kind of have to be the example that you want to see in others. You really have to be that person. So always think about your actions before you carry them out. And this is something I had to rethink everything that I was putting out there in the world in my early 20s, very early 20s, about maybe 20, 21 years old, and had to really look and focus and see if I wanted to attract happy, joyful people around me, I needed to be the happiest, most joyful person I could be. And when I was that person, I attracted this amazing man who's very, very honorable, has very similar values, core values to myself as well. And I'm just so grateful, and I'm now married to that person, and we've been married for almost 5 years, and we've known each other for almost 9 years now. And he is somebody who respected and valued my standards. And that's something that I noticed in a lot of people, specifically women around me. And this is not all women, this is just women that I grew up with, this is women friends. They were willing to lower their standards for a lot of men out there. And I just wasn't one of those people. I decided to really toughen up and raise my standards after my first relationship, and now this is hopefully my last relationship, which I'm so grateful for. That, you know, I learned the first time, and I really strengthened my standards and really strengthened my values. And I feel very, very blessed and very grateful to find somebody that understands that. And we are always checking in with each other, and he has boundaries and he has standards too, and I really value that in him. That's probably the most admirable trait that my husband has, is that he has very good standards for himself and for his life. And we are always improving upon our standards to try and raise them so we can be the best versions of ourselves for each other. So really align yourself with yourself, if that makes sense, and set some good boundaries for your life, and never feel guilty for saying no to somebody if it means loosening your standards. So thank you so much, guys, and I will check in with you guys later.